Previously on Higurashi When They Cry console arcs.
公安のマークがどうやら外れたようです。
Oh. Shortly after emerging onto the more heavily trafficked highway, Arakawa's sudden words caused Tomoe to lightly catch her breath. He glanced at Tomoe's sudden change in facial expression, then continued in a monotone voice.
理由についてはまだわかんないんですがね。ただ割と信用できる筋からの情報です。
そうですか。
Tomoe felt there was something strange happening around her recently, so she asked Arakawa to find out what it was. And from him, she learned that investigators from MPD Public Security and Personnel Affairs have been following her.
マークが外れたのは、まあ、いいことなんでしょうけど、理由もなくついたり消えたりってのは気味が悪い話ですよね。前の室長はどう言っていました？
室長も何が原因でそうなったのかはっきりとは把握してないそうです。知り合いの公安に聞いてもラインが違うので不明だと。隠しているようには見えませんでしたが。
秋山さんもそんなことを言ってたわね。
Commissioner Akiyama of the Aichi Prefectural Police Public Security Bureau was an old acquaintance of Mino, so he was willing to share intel of Tomoe within the scope of his duties. But if it was a line of investigation even he still couldn't get a handle on, it meant this was something very deep within the top secret intelligence agency.
それじゃあ俺はここで。送ってくれてどうもでした。
どういたしまして。何か新しい情報があったらよろしくお願いしますね。
わかりました。前の室長からもあなたのことはよろしく言われてますから。ではまた。
Arakawa held his hand up with two fingers extended and waved, as he disappeared into the airport lobby. After watching him go, Tomoe got back in the car, then stopped and gazed at an airplane as it flew across the sky up ahead.
柿内空港6月水曜池か。
She repeated to herself the words written on the last page of her father's notebook. 12 years ago, Tomoe's father was a detective at public security, trying to investigate something at this very airport. And now, public security had marked her to monitor her movements. Maybe it was just a coincidence. But maybe it had something to do with the case her father was pursuing. That it does.
父さん。
Was it the truth she was approaching? Or was it the hour of death? Tomoe herself wasn't sure.
確か夏美の前に住んでいた町、鹿骨市の沖宮って言ったよな。
うん、そうだけど。
じゃあ知ってるかな。同じ市のhinamizawaって小さな集落地。
Hinamizawa. I gasped for a moment and nearly dropped the lunchboxes I was carrying. No way. I never imagined Akira-kun would ever mention that name.
ちょっと前にスケッチに向きそうな場所の資料を探していた時に見つけたんだけど、あ、これこれ。
Akira-kun pulled out a pamphlet from his bag as he said that, and spread it out. It was a familiar-looking tourist brochure, issued by the town council, with information about sightseeing in Hinamizawa. Akira-kun is a kind person, but if I say terrible things about the village where my relatives live, I'm sure he'll think less of me. No, it would be fine if it was just that. But if he finds out there are creepy rumors about the village, and knows that I'm related to the mayor of such a weird place, what kind of impression would that give him of me? Knowing him, I'm sure he wouldn't say anything. But I worried that in the depths of his heart, he'd start to have strange doubts about me for being associated with that area. In which case...
あ、そうだ。ちょうど今月末、その村で村祭りがあるの。綿流しってお祭りで、よかったら一緒に行かない？
一緒に？
うん。その、
ダメだなんて、そんなことないよ。俺も、できれば、一緒に。うん。
じゃあ私、道案内をしてあげるね。
So, I'll pretend I don't know any of that stuff. I don't know about Orishiro-sama. I haven't heard about the curse. Because I lived in the town next over. So I only know of the good things about the village.
大丈夫だよ。大丈夫。
I did my best to convince myself of that. There's no need to worry. Akira-kun couldn't possibly hear about those things on a one or 2 day trip. And even if something like that starts to come up, I just have to stay by his side to stop it. And in the unlikely event that the curse does emerge and tries to do him harm. If that happens, I'll protect him.
たたりなんて、そんなのおかしいよ。だってお祭りには近隣の人たちもいっぱい来てるじゃない。どうしてアキラくんがたたりに会ったりするの？
お社様はね、村に迷惑を持ち込む者に罰を与えるんだよ。
Akira-kun's not a troublemaker.
その男の子がどんな子かは知らないけど、村の人たちは外から来る者に対してあまりいい感情を持たないからね。
そういう言い方しないでよ。アキラくんも優しい人なんだから。
しかしね、夏美ちゃん。
やめてくださいお母さん。たたりたたりって変なこと言って話をややこしくしないで。
After loudly interrupting, Mom turned to me and spoke. When I saw the look on her face, I felt dejected. No matter how hard I thought about it, there's no good answer when she looks like that.
あのね夏美、案内したいのがいつも仲良くしている女の子たちだったらお母さんもうるさく言いませんよ。でも同級生の男の子と一緒に出歩くなんて村の人が聞いたらなんて思うか分かってるの？不死だらな女の子だってあなたが言われるのよ。
Don't you think you're worrying about this just a tad too much, lady?
不死だらって何？私そんなこと考えてないよ。母さんのその勘繰りの方がよっぽど変だよ。
何ですかその口の利き方は。あなたからも何か言ってください。
Well, if he had something to say, Mr. Ballas Wonder here would have said by now, I'm sure. How much easier would things be if we just didn't have to see each other face to face?
なら、殺しちゃう？
I jumped out of bed and took a look around. Who was that? What was that voice just now?
どこ向いているの？夏美。私はここよ。どこから話しているの？もうしょうがないな。そこの枕元の鏡、ちょっと取ってみて。それで覗いてごらんなさい。ほら。
Feeling scared, I reached out and grabbed the mirror on my desk. And I gazed at my face in that small frame. I saw that! Even though I screamed, it sounded like I was frozen, because my whole body was wrapped in fear. What I saw reflected there wasn't my face. It was something more dreadful, hideous, and horrendously deformed. Dinner?
やめなさい、夏美。あなた、何を考えてるの？やめ、
春子、どうしたんだい？変な叫び声を上げて。
That eek sounded more like a laugh than a scream. What the hell?
ただいま。なんだこの匂い。おい、春子、一体これはなんだ。
That's right. Why do I alone have to endure this? Why do I have to live this stifling lifestyle, doing as those people say? I'm doing my best here, and they're selfishly living their lives as they see fit. In that case, I'll do the same. I'll go on with my life however I see fit!
そうよ、殺せ、殺しなさい。気に入らないやつ、幸せの邪魔をするやつはみんないらない。みんな殺せ、殺してしまえ。結局何にもならなかったわね。そう、全部無駄。ここであなたは私に全て譲って委ねて消えちゃうのよ。跡形もなく。さあ、眠りなさい。その方が楽になるわよ。ゆっくり楽しい夢を見て、あとは私に。
My body leaned forward as if repelled, and as a result, I missed a step, slipped, and fell. Fortunately, I wasn't too high up, and the futon I was carrying cushioned my landing, so I reached the first floor with light bumps on the knees. Then I timidly looked up toward the second floor, and saw nothing there. I gave my body a quick once-over, then heaved a sigh of relief, and taking over someone's body? That's not a thing at all. Yeah, I barely smiled to myself as I picked up the futon, then slid open the living room door and stepped inside. And so it continues. Greetings, my name is Neosekken, and welcome back to my Let's Play of the Higurashi When They Cry console arcs. Oh, and you two?
Fly, you fools!
Seriously, you guys are all in danger, whether you realize it or not. Natsumi's gone crazy, courtesy of Imustan. Hide! Flee!
今日夏君吉休みなのか？
あのさ、アキラ、私にそんな気を使うことないって。名前でいいじゃん、いつものように
別
さ。
に俺は。
はははは。 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 はははは。
Akira struggled to come up with a reply, but he suddenly noticed something seemed off and tilted his head. There was something odd about Chisato. Even though this was normally the time when she'd say something like getting steamy lover boy to tease him, somehow her face looked like she had something on her mind. And speaking of odd things, Chisato came to the art room alone today. Tanaka was always by her side at times like these, even when it was just a mundane errand.
どうしたチサ。
ああ、いや、まあ、大した用事じゃないんだけどね。
Liar! I don't
あん
believe
たに
you.
だけは知らせておいた方がいいかなって。
Her evasive manner of speaking was making Akira more and more suspicious. Still not sure what she meant, he was about to speak up, but at that moment...
アキラ、あんた、今度、Hinamizawaに行こうって計画立ててるんだって？
え？ああ、どうして？
Akira was about to ask, how do you know about that, but stopped himself. It seemed reasonable to think she found out about it while talking with Natsumi. But the truth is, she didn't hear it from Natsumi. She found out yesterday when she went to see her and happened to overhear her talking. And even though Chisato felt a little embarrassed about it, she continued listening in.
ひょっとしたら、あの子の悪口にもなるかもしれないから、かなり迷ったんだけど、守先輩にも教えておいた方がいいって言われたから、言うよ。
だから、何を？
Hinamizawaって結構やばいところらしいんだよ。特にこの季節、6月はさ。
え
Chisato learned about it when she went out for a meal with Momoru Yamashina, the son of her father's chauffeur, who she had grown close to due to a variety of circumstances. The two of them had talked about going to Angel Mort since it was rumored to have exceptionally delicious sweets, so they went to see for themselves what their colorful cakes tasted like.
あれ？
While teasing Momoru, who was busy paying at the register, Chisato was browsing a souvenir selection in the takeout corner of the store, but her eyes suddenly stopped. She noticed a tourist brochure on the rack with the title Beautiful Nature-Filled Village Hinamizawa written on the cover.
へえ、綺麗な村だね。こういうのどかな自然に行くのもたまには悪くないかもな。
まあそうだな。柿内からなら高速道路一本だし、バスも出てるから気軽に行けるんじゃないか？
察しろよ、鈍いな。私は守先輩を誘ってるんだよ。
ああ、わかってるよ。ただちゃんと言葉にして聞いておきたくてな。
性格悪いな、ほんと。やっぱり交際 OK 撤回しちゃってもいい？
そうなったらまた口説くだけだ。言っとくけど俺は諦めの悪い男だからな。
ああ、よーく知ってるよ。まったく。
On the other hand, Chisato realized she was being led around by the nose, so she let out a snort while cursing him. A few days after Akira confessed to Natsumi, Chisato was suddenly called by Momoru as he suggested they start going out.
おそらくタマコだな。たく余計なことを。
She clicked her tongue, thinking maybe it would be a decent way to pass the time. So she reluctantly said okay. But the trouble was, Chisato still had slightly different feelings in her heart.
やっぱさ、相性ってのは大事だよね。こうやって守先輩と喋ってるとつくづくそう思うよ。
そうか？俺はお前とはこの上なく相性バッチリだと勝手に思い込んでるんだがな。
ああ、もうそっちじゃなくって、アキラは夏美とだからうまくいってるんだろうなってさ。
そう卑下するなっての。俺は逆におとなしすぎる子ってのが苦手でな。お前くらいに歯ごたえのあるやつじゃないと全然面白くない。
だからこういう時はもうちょっと色気のある褒め方してっての。
But if he complimented you all the time, what excuse would you have to be sassy? Well, correction. Then you wouldn't have an excuse to be sassy all the time. Forgive me, I misspoke a bit. Contrary to Chisato's words, a warm sensation was spreading through her chest, full of happiness. As the hospital director's daughter, she had more than her fair share of flowery words up until now. So whenever she received praise, she ended up leaning away from it. And since he recognized that, he intentionally approached her with a rough manner of speaking. So she was very grateful to be Momoru's girlfriend.
お？見てよ、守先輩。
なんだ？
今月の終わりにこのHinamizawaで村祭りがあるんだってさ。綿流しってちょうどいいじゃん。行ってみない？
綿流し。
The smile disappeared from Momoru's face the moment he heard that word. Then he semi-forcefully snatched the brochure away and stared at the contents written there. Then gently tapped Chisato on the shoulder and encouraged her to leave.
どうしたの？
You said a big no-no word, Chisato. That's what's wrong.
ちょっと。
Watanagashi is a big no-no word for a lot of people.
中じゃちょっと話しづらいと思ってな。従業員にHinamizawa出身がいるかもしれんし。
どういうこと？
綿流しの噂、少し前小耳に挟んだことがある。その祭りの日、何人かの村人が実際に死んだり行方不明になっているってな。それで？
守先輩、将来はジャーナリスト志望でさ。知り合いに何人かフリーの記者の人がいるんだ。
Is Arakawa one of those acquaintances of his by any chance?
で、その人が言うには、毎年その綿流しの晩に人が死ぬ事件が起きてるんだって。
Those horrifying words made Akira catch his breath. People are dying? It sounded like something from the news or a TV drama. The two of them had never encountered anything like that outside of newspapers or magazines. And this is happening in a village just a few hours' drive away. That alone was a shocking revelation. But what's more?
アキラ、確か夏美、そのHinamizawaの村長の親戚だって言ってたよね。
I heard it. Chisato-chan and Akira-kun are talking about me. Oh shit, she was listening in! You see, guys? I told you were in danger! And the word Hinamizawa was definitely in there. So it's come out then. The curse of Hinamizawa. And that I share the same blood as the people of that village. Who did they hear it from? How did they find out? Well, it's fine. I'll just have to force the answers out of them later.
だけど夏美はHinamizawaの隣の沖宮に住んでいたんだろ。だったらHinamizawaとは直接何も関係はないじゃないか。
だったらさ、アキラ、なんで夏美はあんたにそのことを内緒にしていたんだろうね。夏美はさ、ひょっとしたらあんたをたたりの生贄にしようとしてるんじゃない？村祭りの案内にかこつけてあんたを
綿流しのパンに。知ってる？綿流しってのはさ、布団や着物の綿を流すって言っているけど、本当は腹綿、つまり内臓を流す祭りなんだってさ。もちろんそれは人間の
Why? Chisato-chan, why are you trying to scare Akira-kun by saying these things? Would you say that I'm that frightening too? Ah, I see. I finally understand. Chisato-chan, you're saying this because you want to tear Akira-kun and I apart, is that it? I get it. The truth is, Chisato-chan likes Akira-kun too. But the only one pretending not to know is me. And that's because if we competed in a fair fight, I'd have no chance of winning, right? I'm not as smart or as rich as Chisato-chan. And above all, I'm not a childhood friend of Akira-kun, so I can't possibly know him as well as she does. In which case, Chisato-chan was planning to win this game from the beginning. Even without saying anything, she could tell from my behavior that I liked Akira-kun. Even as she lovingly directed things, Chisato-chan was only pretending to care or want to support me. Is that why I didn't talk to her about it? Because if I told her, she might turn around and say the same thing. I like Akira-kun too. How dishonest. How dirty. Yes, that's exactly it. But what about what Chisato-chan is doing with Akira-kun right now? Is that admirable? Is that fair? It's not, right? It's underhanded, right? It's dirty, right? In which case, it's fine for me to do the same, right? If you get to act dirty underhanded, then it's fair for me to do the same to you, isn't it?
Akira-kun.
Natsumi!
You had your chance. I warned you. Akira-kun and her opened their eyes as wide as they stared back at me by the entrance to the art room. Really feels like you were trying to keep secrets from me. You can't do that, Chisato-chan. Only I can do that with Akira-kun. So, go away. Get out of here. Hurry up already. This is my place. You think I'd give this up to you?
ねえ、瀬戸ちゃん、どうしてそんな話をアキラくんにしたの？ねえ、どうして？
夏美、それは
なんだ、そうなんだ。千里ちゃんも結局私の敵なんだ。
違う。
嘘だ
！I won't be fooled. You can't deceive me any longer. I won't believe anything you have to say. I don't even intend to listen to your excuses. How could you betray me? You deceived me! How dare you? How dare you! That moment. Off in the corner of a field of my view, I noticed a bright, shining painting knife sitting beside Akira-kun's paintbrush. Run, Chisato! Ah, yes. So beautiful. Looks really sturdy. Looks light and sharp. If I stabbed someone with that, I bet it'd go in nice and deep. Yes, but more than that, seems perfect for tearing out someone's throat. I'm sure a bright red fountain of blood would come vigorously spurting out. If I stabbed at that, if I slashed with it. It was painful. My vision was spinning. My consciousness was growing murky, and I was gradually losing myself.
まだ邪魔するのかお前は。さっさと消えろよ。消えてしまえ。
Oh? You're still in there, Natsumi?
Natsumi?
She desperately rushed over to check on me as I crouched down in the spot.
さあ、来い。近づいたら私、千里ちゃんにひどいことしちゃう。近づいたら私、千里の喉元を引き裂いてやる。
大丈夫なの夏美？あんた顔真っ青だよ。アキラ、先生呼んできて。
わかった。
Chisato-chan anxiously looked on as Akira leapt out of the art room. That nuisance Akira out of the way. That idiot Chisato will bring her throat right up next to me.
千里ちゃんは私の大切な友達。千里は私の幸せを奪う邪魔なやつ。お願い、逃げて千里ちゃん。さっさと来い。千里は私が殺してやる。
なら私も付き合うよ。私あんたと一緒に地獄まで付き合ってあげる。きっと友達ってのはこうやって気持ちをぶつけ合えてやっと本物なんだよ。殴り合いなんて本当は良くないんだろうけどさ、今なら私心の底から夏美のことを友達だって胸
千里ちゃん。
一人じゃ寂しいんでしょ。ならいいじゃん。もうあんた一人で背負う必要なんてない。一緒に落ちてあげるよ。さっきも言ったけど本当なら数日前に亡くした命なんだからさ。
私は。
Yeah, that's it, Natsumi. You won't have to despair alone. I failed just as much as you before this. If this is how it ends, I'll be completely satisfied. So, you don't have to keep blaming yourself. If you want to reduce yourself to zero, I'll go with you. And if I see you again next time, I'll be able to do things properly. That was from one of the previous console arcs, what I just saw, wasn't it? As hard as I could, I focused all my remaining strength and thrust out both my hands to push Chisato-chan away as she came near me.
Natsumi.
Chisato-chan was lying on the floor, staring at me in bewilderment like she didn't know what just happened. Was she angry? Did she think I was a terrible person? I'm sorry, Chisato-chan. I'm sorry. But I want to save Chisato-chan. I absolutely don't want to end up killing her with my own two hands. Want to kill. want to kill. I want to kill, I want to kill, I want to kill, I want to kill, I want to kill!
Natsumi! ダメ。私が出てきちゃう。
My whole body was burning up. It was painful to breathe. If things stay like this again, I'll...
どこへ行くの？夏美！ちょっと！
Well, the good news is, after something like this, the authorities will at least be alerted. So, hopefully, somebody will be able to stop her and restrain her before she ends up doing any more damage than she's likely already done to both herself and anyone else around her. So, yeah, that's something at least. I'm not sure how. I'm not sure what way I went to get here. I just desperately ran away from the school to get away from Chisato-chan and kept running and running and running. The place I finally arrived at was this park. My chest ached like it was burning. It hurts, it hurts, it hurts, it hurts, it hurts, it hurts, it hurts.
そうだ。薬。
At times like these, taking the medicine will make me feel a little better. I slipped my quivering hand into my pouch, then rooted around inside and roughly grabbed the pill case. Then I opened the lid and pushed really hard to pop it out of the package, but I applied too much force and it slipped out of my hand, falling to the ground. The pain enveloping my chest spread to my head, my stomach, the tips of my fingers, and my whole body all at once. I felt like I needed to vomit. My field of view was being obscured by vivid colors, and my consciousness was fading farther and farther away. Help! Someone, help me! I'm about to break!
Misa! Natsumi-san!
No, Tomoe! Thank God! Hearing that voice, and vaguely seeing that figure, I struggled as hard as I could, stretching my now numb arms out, and desperately crying out.
大丈夫？Natsumi-san!
Help! Help me! Tomoe-san! Is... That is one hell of a coincidence for her to have been there or been able to receive the call or whatever the case may be. I gotta say, really, it was just a coincidence. Well, there you go. It was a coincidence. After finishing a meeting at Prefectural Police HQ and feeling drowsy from staying up all night, she was looking to get a quick change of pace by stopping at a nearby park before heading back to her apartment. There, Tomoe suddenly spotted a girl dressed in a school uniform collapsed on the walking trail, and she rushed over to her. And at once she realized the girl was Natsumi. Her face turned pale, and she hugged the girl's body.
Natsumi-san! どうしたの？大丈夫？
Huge beads of sweat were all over her face, and her bangs were sticking to her forehead. Her uniform was muddy, and there were countless scrapes and abrasions on her knees and elbows, like she had stumbled multiple times.
Natsumi-san! しっかりして、Natsumi-san!
Even though Tomoe called out to her many times and vigorously shook her body, Natsumi's eyes were hollow and unfocused. But it seemed like she muttered something in that faint moan.
何を言いたいの、Natsumi-san! ねえ、私がわかる？聞こえる？イエスならこの手を握って。
Natsumi was still gasping in pain, but she managed to faintly hold Tomoe's hand. After feeling that, Tomoe moved her ear right next to the girl's mouth, trying to hear what she was saying.
ほら、無理しないで。苦しいでしょ。気持ち悪いでしょ。だから早く楽になりなさいな。いつものように。ほら、あの薬を飲めば楽になれるわよ。
夏美さん、どうしたの？もう一度言って。薬？それって。
When she heard that, she recalled the medicine capsules Natsumi was taking when they met at Angel Mort the other day.
確かあれは常備薬だと言っていたはず。
Thinking about that, Tomoe searched inside Natsumi's bag and in the pockets of her skirt to locate it. But she couldn't find it. And, while wondering where on earth it could be, she gazed at the base of the nearby bench and suddenly noticed a familiar-looking pill case on the ground beside it.
あれか。
Tomoe quickly carried Natsumi to the bench and laid her down, then picked the case up. She bought a can of oolong tea from a nearby vending machine and emptied the entire contents into a flower bed, then filled a can of water from a nearby drinking fountain, and rushed to bring it back to Natsumi.
しっかりして。この薬でいいのね。
Natsumi stretched her trembling hand out toward the pillowcase while breathing harshly. Taking that as confirmation, Tomoe nodded back to her and then tore 2 pills out of the packaging.
2つでいいの？それとも1つだけ
？Natsumi could vaguely make out the palm of her hand in front of her. And there were 2 small, familiar-looking objects, brightly shining at her.
薬だ。
The medicine she had been searching for so long. If she takes it, this awful pain suffering can be so much easier on her. Her worries, irritation, anger, and hatred, all of it will disappear. She just needed to clear these burning hot thoughts and feelings out of her head and fall asleep. And then...
そうよ。あのカプセルを飲めば、今度こそ私は私に変わる。完全にね。
Then we definitely should not do that.
だからあなたは安心してゆっくりお休みなさい。あとは私があなたの代わりにやってあげるから。あなたのしたいこと、望んだことを形にして邪魔なものは全て消してあげる。ありとあらゆる気に入らないもの全てをぶっ壊してあげるから。
That moment, Natsumi suddenly opened her eyes and forcefully shook off Tomoe's outstretched hand. And with that, the capsules in her palm went flying and fell to the ground.
何よ。 よく聞こえない。もう一度ゆっくり。
私は
消える。私って自分が？どういうこと？
For a moment, Tomoe was completely shocked by Natsumi's cryptic and unusual choice of words. But she quickly came back to her senses and realized the situation was dangerous, so she turned toward a nearby payphone.
ちょっと待っていて。すぐに救急車を呼んでくるわ。大丈夫。少しの辛抱だから。目を閉じて気分を楽にしてね。
Tomoe gently squeezed Natsumi's hand as she said that, then turned and ran toward the phone booth. Her back got smaller and smaller as she moved farther away. Though it was rapidly getting cooler, the warmth still lingered on the palm of her hand. No. Don't go, Tomoe-san. I'm at my limit. I can't take any more. The back of my throat was constantly dry, sore, irritating, painful, and itchy. It felt absolutely awful. For a while now, all the blood in my body felt like it was bubbling, like a whole bunch of white insects were running wild inside. It's not it. No, they're not bugs. Grandma told me about this. They're Orishiro-sama's demon larvae. And they're eating my blood, my flesh and bones, trying to break through the skin and come out. Right. I have to get rid of them. Tomoe, get back here! Restrain her! I have to kill them, or they'll kill me. I have to kill them. I have to kill them! So itchy. The inside of my throat is itchy. Itchy, 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 itchy! And no matter how hard I scratch it, no matter how much blood oozes out, the itching won't stop. Won't stop! Won't stop! I have to kill the demon inside me, right away! Or I'll be devoured. I'll be killed! Just a few steps before reaching the phone booth, Tomoe suddenly looked back when she heard a strange voice, and was frightened by the sight. Natsumi was writhing on the ground while crying out in a deranged voice. She was holding her throat in both hands like in a fit of convulsions, and she looked like she was in agony, as if... That moment, an image re-emerged in the back of Tomoe's mind.
あの動作、喉を押さえているんじゃない。
Both her hands were moving up and down, over and over and over again, stabbing her nails into her neck as they trembled. No doubt about it. She was scratching at her throat. She's gone terminal.
やめなさい、夏美さん。
Tomoe turned and ran toward Natsumi in a panic. Then, her nails pierced the skin of her throat, revealing dark red flesh beneath and staining her neck in bright red blood, all the way down to her uniform.
夏美さん、何を。指を離して。
Tomoe did her best to grab Natsumi's hands and keep her from scratching at her throat. Instead, the skin on the back of her hands had blood oozing out from the excessive scratching, and severe pain ran through her like she was being torn apart.
やめなさい。指を離して。お願い。
Why Why are you getting in the way, Tomoe-san? It's so itchy. It's so painful. It's awful. I have to kill it quickly. If I don't kill the demon inside me, it'll kill me. Are you going to abandon me to death, Tomoe-san? Knock her out! Seriously! Or maybe, Tomoe-san, do you think it would be better for me to die? You think it would be best to let the demon kill me? And that's why you're getting in my way? Even now, you're reaching for my throat, trying to strangle me to death? In that case, I decided you are my enemy. 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 Enemy, 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 I'm enemy, enemy, enemy! Natsumi suddenly leapt at Tomoe, and the two collapsed to the ground entangled. Then, she straddled Tomoe from above like riding a horse, and without giving her any time to react, she grabbed Tomoe's neck with both her hands and squeezed with enough force to dig her nails in. Poke her in the eyes! Her long hair became disheveled, and her eyes opened wide with a wicked light within, as Natsumi focused even harder on strangling Tomoe with her own hands. Tomoe desperately tried to pull them away, but they were in so tight, they were practically biting her, so she couldn't create an opening. Molted dark spots began blotting her field of view, likely due to the blood congestion. Tomoe continued resisting and reached a hand into the side pocket of her jacket, then pulled out the extendable baton she was carrying. And then, while using her other hand to push up against the pit of Natsumi's stomach with as much strength as she could muster, for a moment, her breathing stopped. And not letting that absence of power go to waste, Tomoe jabbed her elbow into Natsumi's side to knock her body away. There you go! In the moment she escaped from her confinement, Tomoe rushed to secure Natsumi, who had fallen to the ground. But her legs were weak from the lack of oxygen, so she fell to her knees. Meanwhile, Natsumi slowly and deliberately rose back up, with an eerie smile on her now soiled face. Tomoe couldn't hold back the chill running through her heart as she looked up at that. Zashiki Warashi. She remembered the awful nickname Natsumi had been given in her old town. Indeed, in her current state, she looked just like a ghost. At the very least, this wasn't the kind-hearted, docile girl she knew. No, she didn't even look human anymore. Tomoe reflexively shook the baton in her hand, extending it to the length of a short sword. No matter how rusty she may be at the moment, she had reached stage 3 in Kendo. Even in this condition, she wasn't about to lose to a young girl. Yeah, we'll see. Plus, even if Natsumi turned and tried to flee, the baton had enough reach to stop her in a moment. But could she really do that? This was a girl she deeply cared about, who regarded her as a sister. Beating her down like a common thug was just to, well, given the present circumstances, beating her into unconsciousness would actually be for everybody's benefit. I see. Come to think of it, this lady is a detective, and an exceptionally talented one at that. Since she's a detective, she may have already noticed this medicine. No, I'm sure she noticed. And this lady might even be able to see through my true identity. Then, before that can happen... A moment of hesitation resulted in a delayed reaction. The girl's delicate body slammed into her with unimaginable violent force, and since Tomoe wasn't expecting the hit, she couldn't defend herself, so she collapsed to the ground. The shock of her back striking the ground made her stop breathing, and that moment, Tomoe looked up at Natsumi's terrible visage and began to tremble. The assailant had moved beyond hostility and toward intent to kill. There's a unique expression that one makes when attempting to take the life of another, with a jet-black darkness lurking in the back of their eyes. It was on full display in Natsumi's face. And without any hesitation, she once again tightened both her hands around Tomoe's neck. Yes, Natsumi. Kill this detective! As long as this detective is around, you'll never be happy. She'll expose all your secrets and the heinous things you've done, then throw you in prison! So, kill her before that can happen. There's no other way. You can't go back and start over. You have to destroy everything! She couldn't breathe. Her consciousness was fading. If things stayed like this, she had to do something, or she'd die. But it seemed that words no longer got through to her. Tomoe raised the extendable baton in her right hand while quietly apologizing. But that moment... ever so faintly, from the gap between her clenched fang-like teeth, she could hear something resembling a voice. Help me? What did that mean? Tomoe was about to be killed, so shouldn't she be the one asking for help? Nevertheless, what did she mean by asking for help? Still confused by her meaning, Tomoe neglected to pull Natsumi's hands away from her neck as she desperately tried to reason out her intentions. And then...
Tomoe-san. 何？私、一人っ子だったから、ずっと巴さんみたいなお姉さんがいたらいいなって思っていました。優しくて、頼りがいがあって、何でも相談できて。だから、巴さんさえ良ければ、なんですけど。これから私、巴さんのこと、お姉さんって思っても。ごめんなさい、変なこと言って。でも、私。ごめん。
Her voice squeezed out like she was vomiting blood, but at the same time, huge teardrops came falling from Natsumi's eyes. There was blood mixed in, making both her eyes look bright red, and forming a number of red lines down her pale cheeks. Right. She's such a kind, obedient, good girl. She told me I was like a sister to her. A pitiful girl who wanted to be loved. In that case, what would happen if I didn't believe in her? If I don't keep protecting her, If I don't keep watching over her until the very end, then who else can save her?
大丈夫よ、夏美さん。私は信じる。あなたを信じている。
As she said that, Tomoe released her grip on Natsumi's hands and gently touched the girl's cheeks. No longer putting up resistance, the pressure on her neck immediately increased, and her consciousness was rapidly fading. Her field of view was getting darker and darker. Nevertheless, Tomoe wouldn't break her smile. Accepting the wounds in the girl's heart, she turned her weak breath into words and spoke with a smile on her face.
あなたは優しい子。世界中の誰が何て言っても、私はいつでもどんな時でもそう約束したでしょ。こんなにも頑張って、こんなにもいろいろ悩んで、それでも頑張ってきたあなたの努力、私は知っている。だから早く帰ってきなさい。早く。私の知ってる夏美はそんな弱い子じゃない。そうよ、私の妹がこんなことするわけがない。だから早く戻ってきてね、夏
That moment, a vague memory emerged in the back of my mind, and I saw a scene play out. It was in a park just like this. Even the benches and trees looked identical. And, standing in front of me was a lone woman. She was dressed in a suit and had short hair, with a brilliant glow in the back of her eyes. It was her.
あなたはそれでいいの？何も信じなくて全てを疑って、それで本当にいいの？
いいも何もないですよ。これがただ一つの一番正しい方法。そうでしょ？
本当に？私にはそう見えない。だってあなたは本当はそう思ってないでしょ？ただそう思おうとしているだけじゃない。あなたは自分の作ったありもしない悪人だけの世界が全てだと勝手に思い込んでる。
Yeah, this is definitely a memory from one of the previous arcs.
随分決めつけるんですね。あなたに私の何がわかるんですか
It's interesting that some of the characters in the console arcs here are also getting these flashbacks now. I thought this would be exclusive only to the main characters from the main story.
わかるわよ。さっきも言ったでしょ。私もあなたと同じだったから。
Her words were intense and strict. Her voice was hot and full of passion, and the look on her face made my frozen heart audibly crack. Why? Why is this woman so desperately fighting for my sake? We're not blood relatives. We're not even close. We're total strangers. And on top of that, right now she should be my enemy. She should be the person least willing to forgive me. And yet, why? I don't understand. I can't begin to understand why she's doing
私もね、あなたと同じように絶望して何もかも信じられなくなったことがある。たった一人で悩んで苦しんで、どうして私だけがこんな目にって世の中全てを恨んだりもしたわ。でもね、何も信じられないのって本当に辛いことなの。疑えば疑うほど周りの人は私のことを信じてくれなくて、どんどん離れていく。みんな。だからずっと自分が一人ぼっちで、寂しくて怖くて悲しくて。夏美さん、あなたは耐えられるの？私には耐えられなかった。だけどね、私を裏切るやつもいるけど、それ以上に大切に思ってくれる人も絶対にいる。自分が最後まで諦めなければ。今でも自分の親しい人たちに裏切られるかもって思って不安になって怖くなる時もある。だけど世界は冷たいばかりじゃない。それに相手の優しさには打算とか悪意もあるかもしれないけど、その気持ちそのものの温かさはきっと本物なのよ。
綺麗事ですね。虫唾が走りますよ、そんなの。
いいじゃない、綺麗事だって。いつか死ぬ直前になって自分の記憶の中を真っ黒に塗りつぶしたくなるような思いをするくらいなら、ずっとそっちの方がマシよ。
Yes. Just like back then. Back then, this woman reprimanded me and encouraged me, oh so many times. She tried to drag me out of the darkness with her heartfelt kindness, telling me not to give up, not to despair. And back when Chisato-chan tried to persuade me, I was able to stop myself. Even though I felt helpless, and I was lost in despair that ruined everything, I was able to find a little light. No, that's not all. It wasn't just that. I murdered my whole family and nearly killed Chisato-chan after that nightmarish tragedy. After being arrested, I spent days, weeks, months locked in a small room at a detention facility to repay my sins. I was like a doll, not even aware if I was dead or alive. My tears had completely withered away after the first few days. I had nothing left in me. When I opened my eyes, I could see the dirty white walls and a small view of the sky obstructed by a grid of bars. I dejectedly leaned my back against the wall, just staring at the clouds as they flew past with a vacant look in my eyes, and asking God over and over again if this world was just a dream. My body seemed crushed by the weight of my regrets. I was nearly suffocating from the magnitude of my grief. For me, life was no longer worth living. It would appear better for everyone if I died already. It would be better for everyone if I died already. I thought nothing but that. I was later taken to court, surrounded by great people, and spent the whole time reflecting on the weight of my sins. The prosecutors and lawyers had a lot of harsh things to say. Akira-kun, Chisato-chan, and the others were crying and shouting, desperately trying to protect me.
絶対助けるから。あんたが悪い子じゃないことは私たちが一番よく知ってる。だから夏美、絶対諦めるんじゃないよ。
ありがとう。
However, while I desperately appreciate Chisato-chan's encouragement, that doesn't change the fact that I'm a murderer. There's no mistaking that. I was glad to receive everyone's kindness. Really, I was delighted. But I didn't have anything left to repay them with other than my life. I gave up everything and had no hope for anything. I've ruined the future of so many people, so I have no right, no qualifications to seek a future of my own. So at the very least, I don't want to cause anyone any further pain. So just let me die. Erase me from this world. And if possible, erase me from everyone's memories too, without leaving a trace. That alone was my one request to God, the only thing I was thinking about. However, when a familiar-looking detective submitted the analysis results from the medicine I was taking as evidence during the trial, the situation started to change.
被告の服用していた薬は精神や人格形成に多大な悪影響をもたらすものです。その効用を知らされずに服用を続けていた被告、いや少女もまた被害者の一人なのです。
They conducted various forms of scientific analysis, and the content of their findings was deemed very credible. Based on that, Chisato-chan asked her father to help, so he submitted the testimony of many authoritative doctors. And as a result,
被告人、君吉夏美を無罪とする。
After hearing that declaration from the preceding judge, I fell silent, like I was lost in another world, and froze. After that, I heard cheering from the public gallery, and everyone was offering me their support. It was unbelievable, like a dream come true. But aside from all these other people being happy for me, I had nothing to be happy about. I was unfit to be forgiven. It doesn't matter what caused it, because I'm a murderer. There's no mistaking that. With that in mind, deep in my heart I blamed myself. I felt tormented and self-mutilating. Even so, I went to greet and thank the detective who stood on the defense on my behalf. And there... I heard something unbelievable. The documents that detective presented were arranged on orders from Minai-san.
ミナイさん、あなたのことを最後まで心配していましたよ。多分生きておられたら、あなたが罪に問われなかったことを心から喜んでいたと思います。
It was then I learned Minai-san was killed by a burglar while on active duty. And it happened when she was on the way to hear the analysis results. My medication.
助けてあげたいんです、彼女のこと。昔の私とどこか似てるなって。立場と状況が違えば私もああなっていたかもしれませんし、だから。
She told the other detectives about all the things she was doing for me, and this detective relayed that to me. She was doing so much for me, desperately working for my sake. And true to her word, she was willing to give her life for me. For me!
いない。さあ。
あなたのその命は、あの人が最後まで守ろうとしてくれた命なんです。だから、大切にしてください。それが、あの人の供養になると思います。お願いします。
Minai-san, who taught me something precious. Minai-san, who rescued me from despair. I could never again hear her harsh but kind voice. Her strong, serious look would never again reach me. She was already gone, and I'll never be able to thank her. I'll never be able to tell her I'm sorry. Never! Even though I thought my tears had dried up, and that there was no sadness left in me, I broke down sobbing on the spot. I couldn't stop the overflowing tears, and continued weeping for a while. Oh, the fragments. That's right. Back then, I swore an oath. Maybe this is all a story from a dream. These may be unrelated events that happen in a completely different world. But there, someone fought to save my life. So I'll definitely cherish that effort, even in this world. And I'll think just as much about the lives of others. No, maybe even more so. Yes, I've decided. I've learned from the people I love. I have! Don't kill. Don't let yourself kill. Don't die. Don't let yourself die. I'll go on living for the sake of the people dear to me. And so, I'll never hurt anyone and never have again lose someone dear to me. So. I cried that out, desperately gathering the disappearing fragments of myself, while turning toward the black shadow that was trying to destroy me just a moment ago, and voicing my wish. I will not disappear! I can't disappear! And I refuse to hand this mind and body over to anyone! Suddenly, Natsumi released her hands from Tomoe's throat, then recoiled back and vigorously rose up, arching her back backwards while letting out a blood-curdling roar. And then... Is she dead? Is Imustan finally dead? collapsed on the spot like a puppet with its strings cut, and Tomoe barely stirred her body enough to catch her. Sweat was gushing from her body and her clothes were drenched. A feeble breath was barely emanating from her little mouth.
Natsumi-san! しっかりして、Natsumi-san! Natsumi!
本当にご無事で何よりです。
Fuchida let out a sigh of relief as he said that. Just how many times had he sighed today? He knew he was being insistent, but he couldn't help but say it.
大丈夫ですか、ミナイさん。
ええ、とりあえず出血は止まったから。もっとも頸動脈をやられていたらさすがにヤバかったかもしれないけどね。
笑えませんよ。
He dejectedly spit the words out. Really, Fujita and Hanada seemed to be feeling just as cold as their words sounded. It was fortunate they were able to arrive at the park after receiving an emergency call from a payphone that immediately went silent. But when they arrived, they found Tomoe covered in blood and an unconscious girl in her arms. At first, they thought the two of them were both dead. But a few seconds later, Tomoe raised her head and began shouting and making a fuss.
一体どうしたんです？何があったんですか？
私が聞きたいわ。全くわけがわからないっていうか、理解不能の事態よ。
Tomoe shook her head while placing a hand on her throat. Her neck and both her hands were painfully wrapped in bandages. When she stopped by a park, she suddenly noticed a girl she knew was collapsed on the ground and in pain, so she rushed over only to be immediately attacked. That was the simplest way of explaining it, but it sounded like something out of a bad horror movie. And what's more, it happened in the middle of the day, so it was hard to write it off as the work of ghosts or monsters. It was just a peculiar reality.
幽霊か。
As far as police investigations were concerned, there were no paranormal factors or occult explanations for incidents. At least, Tomoe thought so. But no matter how bizarre and incomprehensible the content of an incident may be, it needs proper analysis to elucidate the truth. It felt like she was giving herself a headache as she thought that.
ま、人目につかなかったのは本当に不幸中の幸いだったわ。もし誰かに見られていたら大騒ぎになっていたでしょうし。
No kidding.
それなんですが、ミナイさん、本当に起訴しないつもりなんですか？
当然でしょ。そんなことしたらこの子の将来間違いなく台無しになっちゃうじゃない。
いや、でもこの子があなたを襲ったのは事実なんですよ。本来なら公務執行妨害に加えて傷害、下手すりゃ殺人未遂で火災でも実刑出ておかしくない罪状です。
そうね。
Tomoe had a bitter smile on her face as she gazed at the face of Natsumi laying on the bed in front of her. The sedative she was hit with shortly after the detectives arrived on scene was very effective, and she was now deeply sleeping. Looking at her gentle sleeping face, it made her previous violent outbursts seem like a total fabrication.
いくら知人だからって犯罪に情状酌量の余地を入れるのはいいこととは思えませんね。ましてあなたは負傷したんですから。規律にうるさいミナイさんらしくもない。
ええ、この子が自らの意志で犯罪をしでかしたなら私もきっと同じで許さなかった。でもそうじゃない可能性も否定できない。自らの意志じゃなく、例えばお社様の意志とかね。この子はHinamizawa出身だから説得力はあるでしょ。
はあ？冗談はやめてくださいよ。その頂上の存在が この子の体を乗っ取ったとでも言うんですか？
まあそっちは私も信じていないけどね。でもこの子の反応は確かに異常だった。まるでそう、薬物の中毒患者に多く見られる錯乱って言えば分かってもらえるかしら。
じゃあ
いい加減な想像よ。まだね。でも
Among those highly dependent on drugs, strong withdrawal symptoms can often include sudden deranged behavior and an inclination towards destruction. Thoughts and actions that would not normally be possible are triggered, regardless of the subject's will.
とりあえず花田くん、大至急採取した彼女の血液と携帯していた薬剤の成分を調べて。こういった分析は岐阜県警の松岡くんが一番頼りになるから、そっちに協力を要請してくれる？
了解しました。
あと藤田くんはこの子に電話をしてあげて。おそらくここの病院の事務に聞けば番号を教えてもらえると思うから。でも内容は。
Well, here's the problem. Her family might be dead right now.
ええ、分かっていますよ。
So even if you issue a call, no one's likely going to be there to pick it up.
ミナイさんの一件は伏せてうまく伝えておきます。ただ
何？
いえ、別に大したことじゃないです。
Oh, don't be like that. What's the problem?
それじゃ。
After saying that, Fujita and Hanada gave a bow and then left the room. The only ones left in the room were Tomoe and Natsumi, who was still sleeping. Suddenly feeling the wind gain stronger as dusk was drawing near, Tomoe went over and closed the window. Since this room was on the 8th floor, the window had bars behind it to prevent anyone falling out. But just in case, Tomoe fully tightened the lock to keep it from moving.
あの時、あの病室にも策があったなら。
If the nurse, Yuko Hiranuma, couldn't think of a good way to kill Kuhei Sawamura, then that incident may have been avoided altogether. And if that had been the case, then the subsequent traffic accident involving Nagisa Ozaki and the mysterious death of Hiranuma wouldn't have occurred either.
考えても意味がないか。
Police and doctors wouldn't even be necessary if everyone could just start over to fix events. They help to relieve the stress and the pain of after an unfortunate incident occurs. That was Tomoe's role as a police officer. Oh. Just then, Tomoe heard Natsumi's voice, so she turned around thinking she might be waking up. The girl was absent-mindedly looking left and right on her pillow, with a confused look on her face.
ここは
病院よ。あなたのアルバイト先の佐伯総合病院。
Natsumi suddenly caught her breath and started to wake up, but Tomoe smiled and held up a hand to keep her under control. She then walked up next to her and sat on the folding chair beside the bed.
気分はどう？
別に悪くはないです。
無理しなくてもいいのよ。今日はここでゆっくりしていきなさい。親御さんにはもう連絡しておいたから。ごめんなさいね。話は少し聞いた。大変だったみたいね。
Wait, you contacted the parents, so they're okay?
心配していたわよ、お母さん。
They're actually okay.
明日あなたに謝りたいって。
そうですか。
Oh, fuck you, Imustan. You tricked me! But on the other hand, that means she didn't kill anybody this time around, so... Yeah. As long as the police are willing to overlook her assault on Tomoe, then... if we can nip this conspiracy in the bud, she'll effectively be in the clear this time around. Natsumi had an ambiguous look on her face as she responded, then let out a sigh and looked up at the ceiling. She probably couldn't believe that her mother would be so docile and accepting. Normally, I wouldn't believe it either, to be fair. As a matter of fact, Tomoe did leave out a lot of the details. Of course. Right after bringing Natsumi to Saiki Hospital, Tomoe immediately contacted her home and spoke with her mother. She no longer made any attempt at concealing her identity. As expected, Tomoe heard a gasp from the other end of the phone. But the next thing Natsumi's mother said was very unpleasant.
夏美が何かしたのでしょうか？
別に何も。とりあえず怪我も大したことはありませんので、医師の診断では数日間安静にしていれば退院できるとのことです。
Then Tomoe gave a terse response of, "If you want the full story, come here," and hung up the phone. An unpleasant ring sound echoed out as she slammed the receiver down.
普通、先に安否を聞くのが親だろうが。
Well, unfortunately for Natsumi, her mother is anything but a normal parent. Thinking that was a sign of human nature, Tomoe disconsolately shook her head. But, on the other hand, that initial reaction did clearly demonstrate one thing. And, just an hour later, her mother came here in a hurry. Took her an hour to get there? Tomoe invited her to a vacant hospital room, then explained the circumstances of her assault, and asked about what happened before Natsumi left home.
つまり昨晩、夏美さんが友人の男性と旅行したいと夕食の席で話したので、それに反対したことで口論になった。と、それだけですか？
ええ。別に、他には。
安心してください、君吉さん。私はHinamizawaのことを少しは知っております。ですから、特殊な事情をお持ちであることも理解して、今日の一件は口外しないことをお約束します。話していただけますね。
はい。
Despite Tomoe prefacing the conversation that way, Natsumi's mother gave self-defensive and biased explanations in order to avoid responsibility. It was hard to take any of it as objective. She's a real frustrating woman. But even so, Tomoe patiently listened through it in order to uncover the truth, frequently asking questions to direct the flow of the conversation. Finally, she was able to infer the source of Natsumi's abnormal behavior.
なるほど。事情はよくわかりました。それで翌朝、もう一度話し合おうとしていたら、その前にいきなり家を飛び出して出て行ってしまった。そういうことですか？
てっきり私たちと顔を合わせるのが嫌で、そのまま学校に行っているものだと思っておりました。私としても、最近のあの子の言動にはどうにもついていけないところがあって。
最近？本当にそれは最近の話なんですか？彼女は過去にも不明な行動を起こしたことは一切ないのですか？
え？
あなた、電話で最初に聞きましたよね。夏美が何をしたのかと。普通こういう場合は事件や事故に巻き込まれたのではと連想するものなのに、なぜか加害者になったことを想定した質問だった。
I'm glad you caught that.
ということは、あなたは娘さんが自暴自棄に走る危険性を実は知っていた。日本の警察を舐めないでいただきたい。 彼女の言動のパターンを紹介すれば、それが突発的なものか、それとも慢性的なものかはなんでしたら、あなた以外の誰かから調書を取って、その上で改めてお伺いしてもいいのですがね。
Stick it to her!
それは。
Based on how visibly upset Natsumi's mother was reacting, Tomoe could tell her intuition was on point. Then, after some in-depth discussion about Natsumi's past and home life, Tomoe struggled to contain her anger over how often this woman got in the girl's way.
本当によく我慢したものだ。
Understatement of the goddamn century. Even thinking back on it now made her sickeningly angry. If she wasn't speaking with a woman, she seriously might have slugged her.
とりあえず前よりはいい状況になっていると思うわ。だからもう一度話してごらんなさい。大丈夫。今度はちゃんと相談に乗ってくれるはずよ。それでもしダメだったらまた私に相談してね。
はい。
That moment, Natsumi noticed the bandages wrapped around Tomoe's neck and the back of her hands, and she remembered the incident that caused it in the park. At the time, she was desperately clawing at her throat, but Tomoe jumped into harm's way in order to protect her. And then...
ともえさん。私なんてことを。
ああ、これいや、私って疲れがすぐ肌に出ちゃってかぶれる体質なのよね。おかげで夜気がつかないうちにボリボリかいて傷だらけになって。
嘘です。それは私が
やってない。あなたは何も。私が証言してあげる。本人が言うのだから、これ以上確かなものはないでしょ。
With a smile disappearing from her face and donning a serious expression, Tomoe looked directly at Natsumi and repeated it again more clearly.
ともえさん。
悪夢を見てうなされて暴れることは誰にだってよくあることよ。私も決して寝相がいい方じゃないしね。あなたは公園で倒れてうなされてちょっとだけ暴れた。でも私を含めて誰も傷ついていないし、夢は覚めた。それで終わり。おしまいなの。
You are the best big sis a girl like Natsumi could ask for. Maka doesn't appreciate you enough.
妹を守るのは姉の務め。そういうこと。だから退院したらまた今度エンジェルモートでケーキでもおごってもらおうかな。
Tomoe had a bright smile on her face as she said that, while slowly running Natsumi's bangs through her fingers. It was a nice, gentle warmth. But, with the smell of disinfectant solution emanating from those bandaged hands, she couldn't suppress the feeling of heartbreak inside her.
ともえさん、私。
Natsumi leapt into Tomoe's arms, sobbing and wailing as she did. She was delighted. She was ashamed, frightened, horrified, grief-stricken, and frustrated. But she was sorry, thankful, and happy to be accepted the way she was. Natsumi just clung to Tomoe for a while, sobbing, and with her thoughts and feelings overflowing.
落ち着いた？はい。
Natsumi firmly nodded, while wiping her bright red eyes with Tomoe's handkerchief. Her voice was faint, since she'd been crying for so long, but it finally felt like the tension had been released, so Tomoe felt relieved.
ともえさん。
何？
聞いてもらいたいことがあるんです。私のこと嫌いになっちゃうかもしれないけど。
ええ、いいわ。嫌いにならなくてもいいって条件付きならね。
ありがとう。
And then, Natsumi began her story. It was largely the same as what she heard from Natsumi's mother, but of course the urgency and seriousness had a remarkably different tone. Natsumi was originally far more introverted. She preferred reading books at home over playing with friends. It seems that started because her parents got upset with her when she had fun with others. You'll get your clothes dirty. You're making trouble for others. I bet by parents what you actually mean is mommy dearest. Because daddy dearest doesn't really seem to have much decision-making power at all within his own household because he doesn't have balls. And Granny is just Granny. After that, she began keeping her distance from her friends, and they started teasing and bad-mouthing her. So she became more and more isolated. And Natsumi's environment was getting more and more terrible around the time she moved on to middle school.
前にもお話しした小学校の時のあだ名。座敷わらしを中学校でも誰かが最初に言い出して、それがクラス内での私の呼び名になりました。別にそれだけなら無視していればよかったんだけど、たまたま国語の教科書の中に妖怪の髪の毛が幸運を招くって話が載っていて。
Sashiki Warashi's hair brings good luck. It was completely baseless and absurd, but the story got the class excited, so one of her classmates came over half teasing to cut Natsumi's hair. Even as a joke, for someone like her who took great pride in her hair, it was absolutely terrible. So she couldn't stand it and shouted "Stop!" while violently smacking away the hand of the kid holding the scissors. Yeah, that was that one connecting fragment we saw. I remember now. She used too much force, so scissors were thrown from the kid's hand and ended up cutting into the arm of another nearby student, which caused an uproar in the classroom. The girl's face distorted in pain and terror as soon as she saw the blood on her arm, and the female students watching began shivering. The male students surrounding the area were absolutely stunned to see that level of bloodshed for the first time. And Natsumi stood there shocked in the center of it all, with her mind completely blank.
私がハサミを持って暴れて、その子の腕を切ったって、親も呼び出しを受けました。私じゃない。悪いのは相手の子だって何度言っても、全然信じてくれませんでした。不良だとか、乱暴者だとか言われて。その後、その子が謝りに来てくれたんだけど、今度は誤解される普段の行いが悪いって。
if I can't relate to a story like this. As a result, Natsumi refused to go to school and holed up inside her room. How would her classmates look at her if she went to school? She was confident the boys would badmouth her again, and the girls would keep their distance to avoid getting involved. The teacher probably wouldn't be able to set aside earlier doubts, and might regard her as a problem child. She was scared just imagining it. School was no longer a fun place for Natsumi. Her parents were in a hurry to get her back into school, so they half violently forced her to go. But every time, she'd collapse in the middle of class with a migraine and throw up, causing a huge commotion. More and more, her classmates and teachers would stare at her and regard her as a problem child. Eventually, just mentioning the word school was enough to make her feel dizzy and faint. So the school advised her to seek counseling.
お医者さんからは貧血症だって言われました。それで私、何度かの検診を受けた後で大きな病院を紹介されて、そこで私、この病気に効くからと薬を勧められたんです。
大きな病院って、ゴグラの？
はい。その薬、とってもよく効いて。今まで学校のことを考えただけで気分が悪くなったのに、飲むと元気になれたんです。それに、嫌なことがあったり、体がだるい時にもすぐに良くなって。それに、服用回数以上に飲んでも大丈夫だからって言われてたから、つい頼るようになって。あとは、巴さんのご存知の通りです。この薬を飲みすぎてから、なんだか自分じゃない自分が私に話しかけてくるようになって。
Natsumi didn't care much at first because it only crawled out of her consciousness when she was sleeping and having a nightmare. But slowly, over time, she was able to hear the voice even when she was still awake. And the result was what happened today.
私、ほんのさっきまでその子に体を乗っ取られていたんです。
夏美さん。
信じてもらえないかもしれません。だって私、自分のしでかしたことをありもしない悪魔のせいだって言って逃げようとしてるようなものだもの。映画じゃないのに、小説のお話でもないのに、私すごくバカなこと言っていますよね。
Well, fortunately for you, you may not be in a movie or a novel, but you are in a visual novel, so saying something like this isn't really all that stupid.
でもその子、私の本当の心を暴き出してくるんです。みんな壊したい。みんななかったことにしたい。気に入らないこと全部消して、邪魔するやつはみんな殺して。そして
いいのよ。
She wrapped her hands around Natsumi's trembling hands, transmitting the warmth of her palms. But Natsumi seemed terrified and turned to keep looking away. Tomoe had a gentle smile on her face. And then she gave another firm nod to Natsumi, who was biting her lip in hesitation.
辛かったんでしょ？だからもういいのよ。誰だって怒りたいこと、やけになりたくなることがある。でもそれを恥じなくてもいい。そうしたくなったら私がいつでも聞いてあげるから。何度でも言うわ。私はあなたが大好き。いいところも悪いところもひっくるめて、あなたのことを本当の妹みたいに思っているわ。だから私の前では何も構えなくてもいいの。いい子でなくてもいいの。むしろもっとわがままになって悪い子になって私に面倒を見させなさいね。おかえりなさい、夏美。
ただいま。 だいま。骨。
Natsumi tightly squeezed Tomoe's hands and sobbed. It's okay for me to be here. It's all right to go on living. Right, sis? As if to answer that question, Tomoe gently stroked Natsumi's head. For that, she was glad. Even if everything she had were to disappear, she was sure of that.
Natsumi!
Oh, hello. Then, all of a sudden, the door of the hospital room violently swung open. And then, a girl charged in with her face pale and the braids in her hair coming unraveled.
Chisato-chan.
She must have run the whole way down the hallway, because huge beads of sweat were running along her forehead, and harsh breaths were constantly spilling from her mouth. Chisato. Was that the girl Natsumi described as her best friend? Remembering the name, Tomoe began to speak up, offering the girl her seat to let her catch her breath. Hmm? For a moment, Natsumi and Tomoe were frozen in place, with their eyes open wide in shock. Please tell me that, Tomoko just only came in to hit her or something, and nothing bad actually happened. Chisato steadied her breathing, then ran straight toward Natsumi with an angry look on her face, and slapped her cheek. Hard. This could be bad. Then...
このバカ！大バカ野郎！
Shouting loud enough you could easily forget this was inside a hospital, she forcefully dove into Natsumi's chest, pressing her right up against hers, her shoulders shaking and her voice cutting out. Natsumi's hospital gown quickly became soaked in dribbling teardrops, and her tightly clenched chest was being wrinkled. Natsumi ignored the pain in her cheek and gazed at her sobbing best friend. She hardly felt any pain from the slap. Instead, the shock made her mind go completely blank, and she couldn't think of anything to say. Then, Chisato suddenly raised her head to look up at Natsumi. Though Tomoe was standing right beside her, Chisato saw nothing but her best friend.
相談してくれなかったんだよ。こんなになるまで、こんな心がおかしくなっちまうまで、なんで何にも言ってくれなかったんだよ。
佐藤ちゃん。
私はあんたの親友じゃなかったのか。あんたと私、タマコも入れて3人。もっともっとお互いの心を分かり合えるくらいに仲良くなろうって約束したのは何だったんだ。あんたは私のことそんなに信用できなかったのか。
Despite still crying and her face being wet with tears, Chisato's sharp gaze was enough to make Natsumi awkwardly turn away. As soon as Tomoe noticed that, she tried to pull the two of them apart, but Chisato pushed her away and then spoke vehemently.
私がどれだけあんたのことを心配したか、あんたにわかるか。学校からいなくなった後、いろんな奴に声かけて手分けして探し回って、もしかしたらやけになってとんでもないこと考えるかもって今の今まで必死だった。神様にだって祈ったさ。あんたが無事でいてくれって心の底から願い続けてきたさ。そしたらあんた警察に保護されて病院になって。
ごめんなさい。
私はあんたに謝ってほしいんじゃない。ただ私はあんたが無事で、それから。
After that, there were no longer any words. Just Chisato feeling relieved and glad to learn that Natsumi was safe. The fact that she yelled at her and suddenly slapped her must have been because her thoughts had turned desperate. That's how it felt. So Natsumi couldn't feel resentful over being slapped. She felt sincerely sorry for making her worry. And more than that, she felt thankful.
バカ野郎、言ってくれればよかったのに。気に入らないことがあったら、私のことでも何でも言えって約束したじゃないか。こんなになるまで黙ったままで。おう、バカ野郎。
千里ちゃん。千里さん、夏美さんのことも分かってあげて。彼女は
知ってるよ、夏美の病気のことくらい。
Natsumi suddenly gasped and her face hardened as she turned toward Chisato. She was still crying and there was sobbing in her voice as she spoke, but she placed her hand on top of Natsumi's.
あんたがおばあちゃんと一緒に私のとこの病院、佐伯病院に通ってることずっと前から知ってたよ。ただの付き添いだってあんたは言ってたけど、私見たんだ。見るつもりなんてなかったけど、あんたが精神科で診察受けてるとこ偶然。
Really? It was just a coincidence. Well, how about that? Yet another coincidence occurring within this episode. I just happened to head up to the hospital rooftop to kill some time until my father finished a meeting. And on the way back...
あれ?
As I stepped down the rooftop staircase and out onto the floor, I noticed the back of a familiar hairstyle down the end of the hallway, so I followed her. And of course, I knew it was Natsumi, so I was about to call out to her as bright as always. But when I suddenly saw the sign posted on the wall, I choked down my words and kept quiet. Because the department listed on the label there said, Psychiatry. Yeah, I'm not too knowledgeable about the subject, I will admit, but I do know that the psychiatric field and mental health within Japanese health system has a bit of a controversial public reception. Again, I'm not too knowledgeable about the exact details as to why that's the case, but I know that it's not the most favorably looked at profession over there in their country. So I would imagine that part of Chisato's reaction to this could at least in part be because of that. It was then that I remembered the top floor of the hospital was the psychiatric ward.
なんで夏美が精神科に?
I shook the suspicions out of my head. But honestly, at the same time, I was half worried and half curious. So after Natsumi finished her exam, I offered to help the doctor on duty by delivering her medical chart, and then carefully looked it over. You little snoop! But I came to horribly regret that decision as soon as I learned the contents. And I felt ashamed of my shallowness for making light of mental illness. I told myself over and over, I'm supposed to be the daughter of a hospital director. Natsumi's medical condition was far more than mere stress and anxiety. It was a serious, weighty mental disorder.
何この病名。よく読めないけど、ドイツ語？
ああ、
簡単に言ってしまえば不安神経症のようなものですよ。大勢の人がいる中で突然不安を覚えて、動悸やめまい、息切れを起こして過剰な恐怖感に怯えるといった症状が特徴です。
Sounds like social anxiety. The symptoms are often found in people who face unreasonable expectations or are forced to work beyond their limits. It's especially serious when the person in question has an earnest personality, because it makes treatment difficult.
ですが、一般の方々は心の疾病に対しての認識がとても低い。消極的な言動を見ても、気合が足りないとか、難局を乗り越える心が弱いとか、すぐに精神論を振りかざしてしまいます。その結果、本人がその兆候を感じても口には出せず、誰にも相談できないまま病状はどんどん悪化していく。彼女もずいぶん悪くなってからやっと病院に来たそうで、完治には相当な時間が必要ですね。
When I heard that, I finally understood why Natsumi continued acting like she felt threatened and seemed anxious about something all the time. It wasn't just about her personality or the environment she grew up in. It's because she had deep psychological wounds in her heart. And the doctor said it was because she was subjected to bullying in her previous school.
Natsumi.
My chest tightened, and pain crept up my back. Even though she was suffering from her painful past and this illness, she kept on acting bright and cheerful without showing us any of it, carrying that burden alone. Just like my sister, Kaori. She never showed any pain or any signs to make me worry. She just really loved me. Even up until the moment her condition took her last breath. She truly believed in me. And yet, I couldn't do anything for my sister. In fact, I ended up betraying her trust. Right then, I decided I'd become a true friend for Natsumi. No matter what happened, I'd be on her side. And I swore to myself that this time, I'd never abandon the people I love. Yes, I'm sure this is the redemption God sent me for the sin I committed so long ago. I abandoned Kaori. I should have been able to save her, but I couldn't do anything for that girl. But now, I can. I can support Natsumi until she's healthy again. It might be terribly prejudiced. And really, I have to wonder if this is what Natsumi even wants. But even so, it's fine. Rather than look back and regret what I wasn't able to do, I think it would be better to look back on the things I've done to bring her happiness.
だから私はあんたが幸せな気分になって少しでも病気の回復になればってアキラの応援もした。そのために手助けできることなら何でもやろうと思った。私がアキラのことをどう思ってたかなんてあんたが笑ってくれるのなら本気でどうでもいいことだった。
Even though she was already faintly aware of it, Natsumi was stunned to hear Chisato directly speak about her feelings for Akira, so she froze. She couldn't take its statement that it didn't really matter completely literally. If the roles were reversed, she never would have been able to accept that, no matter what came in exchange. It was so much determination and resolution, and her friend was doing this for her sake.
だからアキラが夏美と一緒に南沢へ行くつもりだって聞いた時絶対に止めなきゃって思ったんだ。あんたにとっていい思い出のない場所だと知ってたし、そこで病気が悪化したら それこそ目も当てられない。
Well, that definitely explains why you were telling Akira all that stuff then.
だから
Hinamizawaってさ、結構変な噂があるんだ。だから行くのはやめておいた方がいいんじゃないかな。
変な噂ってどんな？
たたりだよ。なんていうか、毎年綿流しの日に犠牲者が出るって。実際にここ数年本当に亡くなっている人がいるらしいんだ。
I told Akira that, passing on a story I heard from Mamoru Senpai, even though I only half believed it. But I figured that would be the best way to make Akira feel reluctant to go to Hinamizawa.
けど、夏美はそんなことを一言も。
言えるわけないじゃん。自分がそこの出身だって言ったら、自分も得体の知れない連中の一味じゃないかってあんたに思われるかもしれないじゃないか。それくらい察してやりなよ。
I don't remember hearing this particular bit, but then again, that's probably because Natsumi was literally stuck inside her own mind, going mad with Imustan's homicidal rage. Natsumi couldn't even admit that she was bullied in her former town. There was no way she'd be able to tell Akira she was suffering from mental illness. This was Akira. Finding out about something like that would probably break his heart even more than Natsumi's and leave deep wounds. Plus, she didn't want her boyfriend to know about her ancient secrets. But even so, no, precisely for that reason, Natsumi, I thought I had to stop the two of them from going to Hinamizawa. What if Natsumi ran into some old friends there? Or what if seeing the Hinamizawa scenery triggered some terrible old memories? Natsumi would be experiencing the stress that gave her this illness all over again. And she'd probably keep acting like it was all okay, all for Akira's sake, enduring an even heavier burden in the process. So, in order to keep that from happening, I tried to stay calm like usual and act like I was just joking around, while desperately trying to make Akira consider going somewhere else instead. But, thinking back on it now, there's no way Natsumi could overhear something like that and not walk away thinking I was trying to slander her. That's why I was running all around the city until just a little while ago, cursing my rashness and negligence, wanting to at least apologize to Natsumi.
そんな、そこまで私のために、なんで？
ああ、つくづく偽善だよ。自己満足だよ。いつものように勝手に暴走して、親切の押し売りみたいなものさ。でも私はあんたに頼られる友達でいたかった。私のことを大好きって言ってくれたあんたに、私も好きだってことを伝えたかったんだ。だけど言葉にしてそのことを言えなかった。だって言えばあんたは今のようにどうしてって私に聞くだろう。そしたら私は夏美の病気のことを知ってるってあんたに打ち明けなきゃいけない。そしてあんたの過去の話だけじゃなく、私の昔の失敗も全部。そんなのできなくて、だから。
There was no way Natsumi would be pleased to learn Chisato already knew the secrets she was trying to keep hidden. And just like Natsumi wanted to keep her past and her illness hidden, it was painful for Chisato to remember the story about her little sister Kaori. If she actually told Natsumi about it, she might be disappointed to learn that she's become sort of a replacement for Chisato's sister. Or she might look down on her for having done such a terrible thing. And even when you know something, sometimes pretending you don't know can certainly make you happier. So, she didn't want to ruin things. No matter how guilty or ashamed she felt, Chisato wanted to protect the pleasant environment she and her precious friends shared, where they were able to peacefully chat and help each other. No matter what, she had to protect it.
佐藤さん。
ごめん、夏美。謝るのは、本当は私なんだ。あんたの友達でいたくて、あんたに好きだって言ってもらえた関係壊したくなくて、それなのに私のバカのせいであんたを逆に追い込んで苦しめて。
そんなことない。そんなこと絶対。
Natsumi gently placed her hands on Chisato's shoulders and shook her head. Right. If she was in pain, she should have spoken up about it. Even if she couldn't do that, she should have meekly expressed her doubts at least a little bit.
どうして千里ちゃん、私のためにここまでしてくれるの？千里ちゃん、あきらくんのことは好きじゃないの？
But she could never ask about it. She kept quiet and pretended not to know. And her reason was the same as Chisato's. Natsumi was afraid of ruining her relationship with Chisato.
ごめん。ごめんなさい。私こそ自分のことばっかりで千里ちゃんの傷に気づいていなかった。千里ちゃんは私よりも恵まれてきっと何でもできるから私とは違うって。でも
Chisato was exactly the same, suffering from the scars of her past and trying to escape from them, even up until today. If only she had properly accepted it.
今日からでも間に合うかな。遅すぎるってことないかな、千里ちゃん。私の友達でいてくれるかな。
Are you feeling extra stupid right now, Natsumi? She's already your friend.
いっぱい抱えてきた私の悩み聞いてもらえるかな。ずっと苦しんできた千里ちゃんの悩み、私が聞いてあげることできるかな。夏美、
The two of them shed tears while tightly embracing one another, as if to restore their earlier bond through a hug. I'm just picturing poor Tomoe just standing around, just watching this whole thing unfold. Just possibly awkwardly yeah, again, just listening to these two. Not knowing if she should just leave them alone or continue supervising them. The two of them shed tears while tightly embracing one another, as if to restore their earlier bond through a hug. Upon seeing that, Tomoe quietly made her way out of the hospital room and gently closed the door.
よかったね、夏美さん。
The two of them still had many difficulties and walls they needed to surmount. Especially Natsumi's illness, which is nowhere near as easy to deal with as it sounds. It'll certainly take a long time for her to recover.
でも
There was nothing to worry about. They didn't need anything at all. Because they were friends who sincerely trusted each other, who could understand one another's past scars, and provide whatever encouragement they needed. Well, At least she didn't seem to feel particularly awkward about it. Whew. Well, I am truly relieved that things ended up the way they did, and Natsumi didn't end up actually hurting anybody this time around. At least nowhere near as seriously as she did in prior arcs. Thank God for that. Still, of course, have to deal with the whole conspiracy regarding Lowell Inc. and all that fun stuff, and the drugs that that Natsumi was taking. But once that's out of the way, hopefully Natsumi will be able to put herself on the path to living a somewhat normal and peaceful life. I truly hope so, because she kind of deserves it. Especially growing up with a dysfunctional family like hers. Especially with that mommy dearest. Like, good God, she makes me homicidal, and I'm not her child. Well. That being said, though, I didn't think things would resolve itself quite this quickly, though. But I mean, hey, good. I think they could have ended up rushing through it a lot faster if they really wanted to, all things considered. So I mean, guess I shouldn't really complain too much. I think I'm gonna go ahead and end things here, and we can continue on with whatever is on the immediate horizon for Tomoe and everybody else in the next episode. So I hope all of you guys who've tuned in have enjoyed this latest episode of the Higurashi When They Cried console arcs. If you did and you would like to see more content from me, feel free to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. And I will see you all next time. Take care.